come up with a series, and I'm going to read you a book while doing my makeup. But I'm not going to just read you a book. I'm going to read parts of a book and then talk about my feelings about a book. So it's like a book review, but I'm going to do my makeup, and my makeup's going to be inspired by the main character, like what I would think the main character would look like, you know? So I think she wears very minimal ass makeup. So I did my skincare, and I'm going to do my primer. The author has described this character. I think she just deadass puts like a little bit of concealer, blush, and mascara and calls it a day. So this is gonna be the easiest makeup look I'm ever gonna do. And honestly, thank God, because I can't fucking stand her at all. I'm not even done with this. I have this much left, but I'm so infuriated by this fucking book. There's this bitch called Catalina, okay? Guy, what the fuck is his name? His name is Aaron. Okay, Aaron. He's the only reason why I kept reading this book, because he honestly felt like the only fucking sane character in this book. She lives in New York. They work in the same company. They hate each other. Or so, like, how she perceives it. Honestly, this entire book feels like I'm in the mind of someone who's very... that this bitch thinks on... like on overthinking level times 1,000, and then also with the way how annoyingly stubborn she is. I honestly think the author was trying to create like a quirky female character, and it's just not giving. It's not fucking giving. Let's start the first chapter. I'll be your date to the wedding. Words I had never. To the wedding. Words I had never, not even in my wildest dreams. I can't read anything. Okay. I'll be your date to the wedding. Words I had never, not even in my wildest dreams, and trust me, I had a vivid imagination, conceived of hearing from that deep and rich tone, reached my ears. Looking down at my coffee, I squinted my eyes, trying to search for any signs of noxious substances floating around. That would at least explain what was happening, but nope, nothing. Just what was left of my Americano. Rosie, my best friend and colleague in Intech, the New York City-based engineering consulting company where we had met and worked, slowly nodded her head. I watched her dark curls bounce with the motion, an expression of disbelief marrying her otherwise soft features. She lowered her voice. Nope, he's right there. Her head peeked around me very quickly. Hi, good morning, she said brightly before her attention returned to my face. Right behind you. We're standing at the far end of the hallway of the 11th floor of the Intech headquarters. Both our offices were relatively close together, so the moment I had entered the building, located in the heart of Manhattan, in the vicinity of Central Park, I had gone straight to hers. See, this is what I'm talking about. I literally, since the beginning of, I feel like this author, I'm so pissed. I'm like reliving everything. See, here's the thing. The way that when I first jumped into this book, I had to keep like pausing and rereading a sentence because I felt like I had jumped 2 pages into a book. And see, this is the problem. I thought at first it was maybe me, right? Like I was like, okay, am I tripping? But no, I read other books where they're just as informative, but it's presented in a different way. I felt like I just read something so fucking unnecessary. Let me read this to you again. Lips parted, I stared at my friend for a long moment. We were standing at the far end of the hallway of the 11th floor of the Intech headquarters. Both of our offices were relatively close together, so the moment I had entered the building, located in the heart of Manhattan, in the vicinity of Central Park, I had gone straight to hers. She honestly could have cut all of that off and like said, we were standing at the far end of the hallway of the 11th floor of the Intech headquarters. Both of our offices were relatively close together, so the moment I had entered the building, I had gone straight to hers. Like, I don't need to fucking know where the building is located in the heart of Manhattan, nor if it's in the vicinity of Central Park. Like, that doesn't add anything to the book. I know you're in New York. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I like, already I was so thrown off of the way that giving me very much YN. That's what it honestly gives me. Like, this fucking author created that typical like quirky ass girl that like even in her writing it just kind of feels so fucking weird. The regular foundation, I'm gonna use a light right here, just kind of cover spots because I feel like she's giving me very much, again, light coverage. I want to look presentable, especially in a tech company with all these bros. My plan had been to grab Rosie and plop down on the upholstered wooden armchairs that served as a waiting area for visiting clients, which were usually unoccupied this early in the morning, but we never made it. I somehow dropped the bomb before we ever sat down. That's how much my predicament needed Rosie's immediate attention. And then he had materialized out of nowhere. Mind you, by the way, she hasn't turned around to look at him at all. And this is a whole thing in the book where she literally is going back and forth with her own best friend saying like, I'm not going to turn around. And she's like, are you fucking serious? Like, he's right there. Like, stop. And he's going, dude, are you serious? Like, stop being a kid. I didn't even think he was able to pull off friendly, but he had always been less grim when it came to Rosie. A curtsy had never extended to me. Do you think you can tell Catalina to turn around? I'd appreciate talking to her face and not to the back of her head. His tone dropped back to -0 degrees. The fuck does that mean? Like, he's like, Ice Meister. I'm Mr. Me. Anyway, all of this first chapter is literally her bickering with him back and forth about her being able to turn around. This pretty much explains why they have this like weird work enemy ship. Okay, I wasn't late to our meeting. Ever since that date, a year and 8 months ago, I was never late. Why? Aaron Blackford. One time I had been late, one single time in Aaron's presence, and yet he kept flaunting the fact every chance he got. He never chalked it up to me being Spanish or a woman, both unjustified stereotypes when it came to being notoriously unpunctual. Aaron didn't do nonsense. He pointed out facts. He stated verifiable truths. He had been disciplined to do that, just like every other engineer in the consulting company where we worked, me included. And technically, I had been late. That one time all those months ago. It was true that I had missed the first 15 minutes of an important presentation. It was also true that it had been Aaron leading it during his first week in Intech. And it was again true that I had made a miserably loud entrance that might have involved accidentally knocking over a coffee pitcher on Aaron's stack of dossiers for the presentation, partly on his pants too. Not the best way to make an impression on a new colleague, but tough shit. Things like that happened all the time. Tiny, unintentional, unexpected accidents like those were common. People got over them and went on with their lives, but not Aaron. Chapter 3, we get to learn a little bit more about their dynamic, Lena and Rosie's dynamic, and she's so for real. Like, she's so real about how she literally is telling Lena, like, bro, he's only behaving like this because he likes you. And she's like, no the fuck he don't. And she's like, you're just stupid as fuck, and somehow I'm still your friend. And she's like, wait. Rosie shoved her hand between us, making the universal sign to hold your horses. You told your mom what? Gobbling down the rest of my pastrami panini, I shot her a look. You know what I said, I told her, not caring that my mouth was still full. I just wanted to hear that last part again. Rosie leaned back on her chair, her emerald eyes wide with shock. You know what? How about you start from the beginning again? I must be missing something because this whole thing sounds a little bit too much, even for you. She's the realist in this book. Narrowing my eyes at her, I gave her a fake toothy smile that I was sure showcased some of the contents of my panini. Here, that anybody in the co-working space on the 15th floor where we were having lunch could see me. At this time, there weren't many people left on this floor anyway. Leave it to a company in New York City to dedicate this much space and money because the decor was right out of hipsterland to a co-working and shared space for a bunch of workaholics who didn't make use of it outside of their lunch break. No more than a couple of tables to my right were occupied by now, the ones closest to the impressive floor-to-ceiling windows, of course. I didn't need to know that. I know this author's trying to create a scene for us to be able to, like, be more immersed into the book, more into the setting. I get it. I get what she's trying to do. But my first time reading this, I literally had a brain fart. I had to reread it 5 times to understand all this has nothing to do with anything else that we're fucking reading. Something that this author has a tendency to do, in my opinion, is that she just puts so much unnecessary information in here on top of making a main character so fucking unbearable. Rare Beauty concealer, and we're gonna be, this main character gives me, I definitely don't want to look like I have bags, so I'm slapping a thick wad of concealer. There's a scene in here where she stayed back and was working, And then she ended up having to go to her car, but it was pouring rain outside, like pouring rain. And I think it honestly was like 10 pages of bickering. I'm not fucking joking. You knew the universe didn't like you all that much when, after an exhausting week that had been crowned with a catastrophic Friday, it started pouring down the minute you stepped out of the office. Me cago en la leche, I cursed under my breath, looking out through the glass of Intech's massive entrance door and taking in the dark clouds crowding the sky, rain falling from it almost violently. Pulling up my phone, I checked the weather app and discovered that the summer storm would probably hover over Manhattan for a couple more hours. Perfect. Just perfect. I was already past 8 in the evening, so staying in the office to wait out the rain wasn't an option. I needed my bed. No, what I really needed was a can of Pringles and a pint of Ben & Jerry's. But that wasn't a rendezvous I'd be having today. Instead, I'd probably trick my stomach with whatever leftover veggies I had in my fridge. Relatable. Thunder rumbled somewhere nearby, returning me to the ugly present. The rainfall increased, now with gusts of wind veering the falling water from one side to the other. Still in the safety of Intech's entrance hall, I extracted from my bag the light cardigan I wore in the chilly building and covered my head with it in the hope that it would somehow act as a barrier between the rain and me. Thankfully, the bag I had grabbed that morning, even if not the prettiest, was waterproof. Like, what does that mean? You know, like, I don't, like, what do you mean, right? Like, I extracted from my bag the light cardigan I wore in the chilly building. That's fine. I'll give it to you there, okay? But then, thankfully, the bag I had grabbed that morning, even if not the prettiest, was waterproof. Why do I need to know if it's not the prettiest? Maybe I'm just being so fucking specific, but, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, I'm already fed up by chapter 5. If you hear someone blowing their nose, it's my brother. Looking down at my beautiful and brand new suede loafers, which, contrary to my bag, were gorgeous and unfortunately not resistant to water. I took in their pristine state one last time. Farewell, $300 shoes, I told them with a sigh. I don't know, shit like that annoys me from characters and from writers in general. Like, what was the point of that? What was the point that she dresses nice? Right foot slipped on a puddle, sliding forward as my other leg remained rooted to the sidewalk. She's just not having a good time. From my eye, I watched the passenger window roll down. Without moving, oh, by the way, a car pulled up. Without moving any closer to the vehicle I strongly suspected belonged to someone who I was in no mood to interact with, I turned my body and zeroed in on the driver's outline as I still held the stupid and dripping wet garment above me. God freaking damn it. Aaron was sitting inside. His body was leaning toward the passenger door, and while I could see his lips moving, I couldn't make out what he was saying. With the noise of the traffic, the wind and the rain hitting the pavement with the characteristic force of a storm. What? I shouted in his direction, not moving an inch. Aaron waved his hand, probably indicating that I come closer. I stood there, squinting my eyes at him, wet as a drowned rat. He aggressively waggled his pointer back and forth at me. Oh, hell no. His lips moved around what I assumed was something like, for fuck's sake. Unless he was telling me how much he wanted a milkshake. To speed this up, all these like pages right here were her being so stubborn that she wasn't going to get in the car. This being a peachy colored book, I think I should go in with a peachy colored blush, because one thing I will say is that I feel like she is a blush kind of girl. Start seeing a little bit of Aaron's side of his life, where we find out that, like, I don't know, he was this football player or some shit, and he is rich as fuck, essentially, because, like, we need a rich, brooding man. They're dancing, and she's, like, going through a whirl of emotions, and having a moment of being like, oh my god, maybe he's like not so bad after all, and he's actually super sexy, and maybe I just don't want to admit to myself that I like him. More information about the characters getting to know each other, and finally her agreeing to him being her fake date. And listen, this is, to me, when it started picking up, because all of this was just annoying as hell. And the only thing that kept me going, truth be told, was the character. Funny, I just wanted to highlight the scene. This is like a Bridgerton moment, honestly, where what's his name, the Duke of Hastings, is licking that spoon when they're at this like tea place or whatever, because right here they get tacos. Okay, 3 sounds good. They get 3 tacos. I confirmed rather absently while my mind wandered away, picturing Aaron coming here as a regular, ordering his 3 tacos, sauce dripping off his otherwise spotless fingers, perhaps some out of the corner of his otherwise enemy's mouth. Stop it, Lena. I scolded myself. Tacos are not sexy. They are messy and sticky. Like, what the fuck? Honestly, so real though. Okay, so she has an ex, and she just, like, the whole breakup situation was super messy because she actually ended up falling in love with her professor, but they had waited until after she had, I think, graduated the classes for them to get together. But there was speculation about it, and even though that she wasn't in his class anymore, people were like, oh, that's probably why she had passed, because she was, like, you know, with the professor. And the ex never stood up for his girlfriend, for Lena. In fact, he broke up with her saying that this was too much, that this was too childish, and that he couldn't do this anymore. And he put all of the gossip blame on Carolina, and, like, made it into this thing where it was her fault for letting people get to her about it. And basically what it is, like, a man put himself first and then blamed a woman. So is a shitty ex, duh. And he's irritated that Lena brought Aaron, and I think he was almost expecting Catalina to come to the wedding by herself, because it's asked, like, hey, where's your new girlfriend? And he said, oh, she couldn't come. It was never really explained, but it was kind of hinted at that, like, maybe you did it on purpose type shit, right? So you could kind of be alone with Catalina. And Daniel's a fucking ass. Like, he's an entitled asshole. And there is this one scene where she's really, really proud of Catalina for standing up for herself. Like, because the way he was really behaving towards her was just like, ew. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this book and then let you know my thoughts. Some bronzer. This is the Fenty Beauty one. I abused the shit out of this one. And by dirty, it's just complete messy. Anyways, she gets a little bronzy moment. I finished the book. It was a cute ending. It was a predictable ending. Once again, she referenced the floor to ceiling. Like, let me go ahead and find it real quick. Oh my God, you look like you just came out of a sex marathon. Because it did. Rosie, I hissed, smacking her arm. Her cheeks turned red and both her hands jumped to her mouth. We were on the co-working space floor of the building at lunchtime, so more than a few tables were occupied with groups of people enjoying their break. We had been lucky to snatch one that sat close to the floor-to-ceiling windows. What the fuck is up with you in the floor-to-ceiling windows? Anyways, the ending was cute, you know, like... And then there's an epilogue, which it depicts 1 year later, and I just don't think... I think it was also, once again, like a re-cute type ending. But honestly, if you could have done without the epilogue, in my opinion. Like, if you could have just ended it right here and called it a day. Like, I feel like this epilogue was kind of pointless. I don't like this book. I think this book was very hard for me to get through because the main female character, is very annoying. It's very obnoxious. She is too stubborn to the point where at one point I would just look at this person and deck them in the face and be like, can you just fucking get over yourself? Like, for real, like, get over yourself. And the only reason that I kept reading this book is because the main male character was actually decent and bearable, and I liked his character. Just the way he was. I really liked his character. Second thing that I don't like about this book is I just don't really like the writing. I think it's too much information. It's just really awkward sometimes, certain parts. I feel like you're stuffing unnecessary information down my mouth. Like, that's what it feels like. Is it easy to read? Yeah, just without the parts that are so fucking confusing that make you feel like you jumped pages. This is such a cliche book, and I love cliche books. I'm all about cliche books, but I like it when it's done right. And this had all of the basics, but I felt like the author was trying to make the main character, female character, be so quirky, and the sex scenes were hot. So, I mean, it got that part right. If you like books like that, this is a book for you, especially if you like culture intertwined with books, which I like, which is the reason why I picked this book up. Yeah, read it for yourself and determine. Like, watch this video, have fun with it, and if you're not interested in reading this book, then that's okay. But if you are after this video, I would totally recommend reading it. I'm not going to tell you to not pick this book up. I personally would never read this again, and I personally would never recommend this to anybody, except for like if I knew that they really liked like super basic cliches. Like this is definitely something for them to read. And I just can't stand the character. But either way, this was my review of The Spanish Love Deception. Yeah. Thank you, Elena Armas.